United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out this evening. Call this meeting to order. Our first order of business is public announcements. Nomination papers are available and are due on September 7th for the November municipal election. There will be 2 seats for town council and 2 seats for the school board. Number 2, summer concerts in the park are held on each Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. from June through August. The Fairfield Farmers Market is open and held on Wednesdays from 2 to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. The market is located at the Fairfield Church of the Nazarene on 81 Main Street. Our second order of business is public hearings to hear from the public on a request from SAPI, SD Warren Somerset Plant, for renewal to operate a solid waste facility on company-owned land off Route 201 in the town of Fairfield. I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this matter?
Yes.
To the podium and state your name, please.
My name is Tom Griffin. I'm the environmental manager at the Somerset Plant. We're back again for our annual renewal. I'm here to answer any questions anyone might have. There's not a lot going on at the landfill, not a lot of excitement. We just finished building our number 12 cell in the fall of last year, started using it this year. We're covering the bottom to prevent it from any possible freezing issues. And once we get that done, it should be by the end of the month, we're going to go move up on 5, 6, 9, and 10. Those are the cells that we're getting ready to close out. We've got in our capital plan money to close out part of 5, 6, 9, and 10. It's called phase 1. And once we get that filled, presuming we can fill it in time for next summer, we'll cover that. And then 2 years later, 2021, we're planning to close out essentially all of 5, 6, 9, and 10 with final cover. That's what our capital plan is. A lot of it depends on our landfill waste rates, and our landfill waste rates depend a lot on how much gas we burn in number 2 power boiler. The number 2 power boiler has got natural gas on it, and depending on the price of natural gas versus bark, that kind of decides how we're going to burn. If we burn bark, we generate a fair amount of ash from the bark, and we generate none from the gas. So that's kind of sets our schedule, and we are, once in a while DEP wonders why we generate less or generate more, and that's kind of the main issue in our solid waste. So anyway, I'm here to answer any questions you might have, and if I can't answer them, I'll sure get the answers for you.
I do have a question for you. On the first page here, we've got a wastewater polishing pond, and then on the other side of the wetland migration area is the east cell expansion project area. I'm a big advocate as far as wetlands are concerned, and how does that affect the wetlands in that area and the animals and whatever else is going back and forth through that area?
Those wetlands were built because we were using wetlands to build a landfill. Mm-hmm. So those are man-made wetlands that you have to build those to offset any wetlands that you're taking up. We took up wetlands when we were building the cell, so we had to replace those under DEP rules. And what ends up happening is that we planted cedar in there and willow, pine, a lot of wetlands plants, and you have to monitor it for 5 years, report the progress on the wetlands. But now it's been, I don't know, probably 20 years, and God has decided to take over, and it's pretty much all alders now. But that's kind of the evolution. And what happened was that the deer came in and ate, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with deer, but they came in and ate all our cedar. So we ended up put a fence around, an electric fence around the wetlands to keep the deer out from eating cedar. But that's all part of, wetlands mitigation. But it came from, we built the wetlands for the landfill.
One question I have is, are you having any issues with either erosion or runoff or anything of that nature, where you've changed some of those grades to 12%?
Yes, no, and anything that comes off those new grades
Yep.
stays inside the landfill boundary.
Okay.
It stays inside the dike, so the only time the water that falls on the landfill goes outside into the stormwater system is once you've got it covered and grassed over. But right now, anything that falls on the solid waste material runs down the side and stays inside the landfill dikes, goes into the leachate collection system, and gets sent to our waste treatment plant. A good question. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay.
I declare this public hearing closed. Moving on to our third order of business. Members of the public may speak to the council on any item, or reserve to speak on a specific item that is on the meeting agenda when the item is addressed. Apparently there is no one at the moment that wishes to speak on anything, so moving right along. Our fourth order of business, reports from staff and committee. Town managers report.
So you have the monthly report from July that you would have received, that you normally would get at the beginning of the month. And then also we have, I did send everyone an email just to let you know, but that the 2018-19 taxes were committed on August 10th. The mill rate did remain the same, and bills were mailed out last week. So if anyone has not received a tax bill at this time and feel that they really should contact the town office and investigate that for them. Sometimes address changes, what have you, they'll come back to us. Also, so that you're aware, a design build RFP is currently posted for the regional training facility for the fire department. Bids will be due in on September 7th at 10 a.m. After the bids are received, the fire chief and I will begin the process of reviewing those bids, as well as looking for next steps with potential funding sources. There are a lot of folks who are looking at potentially contributing to this facility, and we needed to have this step before we could move to the next step. So we're working on that. And then once we get through everything, it will be brought back to council, of course, at a later date for decision-making process. And also, the town has received all of its permits, the Army Corps of Engineers and the DEP permit for our RTP Trails grant that we received a while back. This is for the connection of the trail between the school and the PAL ball fields. We'll be building a walkway. If you are at the Taylor baseball fields, out at the PAL fields, and you look straight from home plate, right straight out into the woods, there'll be a new path that will run through there. It'll be 8 feet wide. It's being done with 2 36-inch culverts that will be placed in the wetland area, and then a berm put on those pieces. So that's all approved to go forward. That's been in process for a couple of years now, so we're happy to have that going forward. And then also, we put out a request for folks. We were looking for a local photography club. There doesn't really seem to be one in the area, but if anybody knows of anyone in the area, but also local artists, we're looking to put some artwork here in the lobby and in the hallway of the community center. In some various different places. We have a lot of wide open white space, and we thought potentially displaying some local artwork would be a good thing for us to do. It is posted on our Facebook page. We've received a pretty good response so far, but anything that anybody has, we'd love to talk to them. So if you know of anyone. And that's it for me.
I do. My husband and myself.
Good.
Both artists, so.
Were there any committee reports?
There are not.
There aren't.
Most folks are on summer hiatus.
Yeah.
Our fifth order of business, to waive the reading of and accept the minutes as printed for meeting number 2018-13 held on July 25th, 2018.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, abstained. 302.
Thank you.
Our sixth order of business, the treasurer's warrant. To approve the treasurer's warrant number 12 in the amount of $218,369.17.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carries. Our seventh order of business, to take actions on the following items of business. Item number 18-60. Order that the town council hereby approves an annual waste disposal permit for SAPI SD Warren Somerset plant landfill facility located on company-owned land off Route 201 in the town of Fairfield.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries.
Looks like you'll make the game after all.
Thank you again for coming in.
Thank you for coming. Have a good night and drive safe.
Your permit.
I'll drop off the check. It's in the mail.
Thank you.
Item number 18-61, order that the town council hereby adopts update to the Town of Fairfield Town Council Administrative Policies, Addendum A, fee schedule to include PEG Access TV, Crossroads TV fees as follows. We'll have a copy of that, set up in video shooting, 45 per hour, 1 hour minimum. Editing, $45 per hour. Additional camera person, $12 per hour per person. DVD sales, $15 per DVD. Specialty DVD sales, $25 per DVD.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion on this?
I just wanted to let you know that the number, the amount per hour was come up with by using what it is we currently use for the contracts that we are honoring prior prices that CATV had with the municipalities. So, and they figured out to be about $45 an hour. The towns pay $225 per meeting, which is roughly 5 hours worth of work, is what that averages. So that averaged out to this. This is a work in progress. There may be other things as time goes by. There may be things that need to be adjusted, but we needed to get started. And of course, we're not allowed to charge any fees that the council doesn't approve. So that's why this is here, but it'll continue to evolve.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any further discussion on item 1861? Okay. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving on to our eighth order of business, council workshop and other business. Discuss adult use retail marijuana. A land use ordinance proposed amendment.
So this is the amendment that you were given back in, we started in November, actually, when I looked back at some of our documents today,
Yeah.
that the planning board had worked through. And then, of course, there were some changes in legislation, so they were reviewed again, made sure that they were still compatible. These changes have also been, we reviewed South Portland's ordinance, which they recently passed, which included the new legislation, so we've worked it through so that the updates are in here. So that's where this is at. So.
I don't see anything on there that, you know, stood out as blatantly obvious with it.
So, part 9.20, the first paragraph, the second sentence needs to be rewritten. It starts, one way and finishes another. It's,
Okay. So that very first paragraph, second sentence.
Yes.
I think we've probably all read it too many times. People in business. In the cultivation
9 point.
processing.
There's a subject-verb disagreement in the first clause.
Yep, I see it.
You got it, Michelle?
Yep. Yeah, it's that is. And that just needs to be fixed.
So, with respect to putting this out there as an ordinance, I am thinking that it might be beneficial if we actually had 2 hearings on this as opposed to just one, so that we can get information from people can hear what's out there for information, and if people have specific responses to that information, they can bring that. So if somebody comes in from the marijuana industry or opposing the marijuana industry and makes a particular claim, that we can look into that before we vote and make our own assessments of the validity of those claims, because I think that's going to be this issue, probably more so than any other issue we're going to face in this term, is going to require that we exercise our sound discretion and judgment. We are taking a leap into something that is not only very new policy, but still at this point in contravention of federal law. So we need to make sure that we're all very comfortable with the information we're relying on making this decision. So I would like to have more than one opportunity for people to consider that information.
I think it's an excellent idea. A couple of public hearings on this would be.
And it also needs to be noted for, I'm sure a lot of people are aware, but there's probably also a lot of people that are not aware that in order for this to become law within the town of Fairfield, we have to opt in. We have to vote to specifically say, yes, we're going to do it. If that isn't done, then it isn't legal for us.
By adopting this amendment to the land use ordinance is opting in.
Okay.
So if you choose to approve this change, that's how we would opt in this municipality. So if council approves
I
that.
presumed that
Yeah.
we would set this ordinance and stuff up and then do a vote whether we opt in or
It's
opt
done
out.
through this way.
Well, if it really is just approving an ordinance, then we should really have a couple of public hearings about
At
it
least.
first.
When the land use ordinance changes are subject to, I thought, 2 anyway, for land use ordinance amendments, but maybe not. But you can schedule as many public hearings as you would like.
It's 2 times it has to be published.
Published.
So I've
We only have to hold
got
one,
that
yeah.
lined up. So I have to do, so it is more expensive to do 2 public hearings because I'm gonna be doing 4 public notices for you. And just to be clear, so I can line this up for you. So are we looking at September 12th and September 26th? Those 2 meetings, the next 2 meetings?
Sounds good.
I'll line
and we
it.
can maybe figure out a way to run, if we can get the dates close enough, if we can do 3 instead of 4 postings. We'll have to look at the time frames, but yeah, it's fine. And what we'll do is, because we already know them, we'll just start immediately when we post the first one, post the fact that the second one's
The
gonna happen
second
too.
one, yeah.
Yep.
And as long as we meet the deadlines for each one of the legal postings, we'll do what has to be done to cover some of the law, but we'll advertise them both at the same time.
Sounds good.
And we can also make sure too that we have a slide put up on our local access station, and we can do some of our own publicity as well, so that folks are aware.
Yes, we have a TV channel that we can utilize to put this information
Dish
out
note
there.
on, yeah,
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah, so
that's
Works for
fantastic.
we'll do all of that stuff.
Great.
And sending a lot of things over there,
Yeah, good.
over here.
Good.
Okay.
I'll get that scheduled for you, thank you.
Unless you have Dish or DirecTV.
Unless you have Dish or DirecTV.
However,
yes.
you can watch it on YouTube,
Yes, you can.
and you can, yes.
These are being
You'll be able to get
posted
it.
to YouTube app.
Yes.
How long after airing are we looking at it being posted?
Sometimes it depends on the amount of editing that needs to be done. So, like the other night, we did a broadcast at Tech Night, Central Maine Tech Night, and it went immediately. It went live
That's good.
to YouTube.
Great.
So it all, yeah. So there's
Excellent.
some,
That's-
and Tech Night went out live, and yeah, it was good. So, good stuff going on.
That's awesome.
I like it.
It's not weeks
No,
later,
No.
if at all.
right.
Yes,
Good.
that's fantastic. Somebody's doing a fantastic job. Okay, fire prevention and protection ordinance, proposed amendments.
Those
Lean-
will all be under the same.
I guess all of these will be under the public hearing rather than going down through them individually. We'll have the opportunity to present these to the public and
Yeah.
have them weigh in on all these issues
Yep.
and see where they stand on that,
Yep.
one side or the other, or both, or whoever shows up.
Because the fire prevention and protection ordinance amendments go hand in hand with the other, which allow for more in-depth inspections and various different pieces for us to do, and better regulation for, mainly for extraction pieces, and for the processes that they use for that.
Right.
So it's gonna help us with that a great deal.
So 2 public hearings on that one as well, folks?
Yep.
Two,
Yes.
which will involve all of
What's listed.
what's listed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it would be good for you to discuss the application as well, simply because that way people will know what kind of frame up for processing these things are, and the fact that they're only annual and they are subject to annual approval and the way we've designed it, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like getting
A liquor license.
Liquor license.
Yep.
You know, if you're not in good standing, you may not get approved
Right.
for a second year.
Correct. Good.
Absolutely. All right. Discussed other council business. Courtney, do you have anything?
Nope, nothing tonight.
Nothing tonight? Beverly?
Great feedback on the new signs on Weston Avenue and on Main Street. I've heard a lot of real positive responses to that. People are happy that they don't have to run across the road and worry about being run over or people speeding up trying to run down. So I've heard a lot of positive about that. They like the color, they like the little flashing lights, and most people are abiding by that. Most. There's still a few stragglers that are not either paying quite attention to it or just ignoring it, but on the most of it is all positive, and everybody's pretty happy about that they're not getting run down when they're
That's
crossing the street,
fantastic.
so.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
excellent feedback.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you for sharing
You're
that.
welcome.
Nothing really, other than the fact that we will, from a state level, we'll be going back into session on next Thursday. There will be a number of bills that'll be there and put out and things like that, so
Good.
it's not quite over.
Not over yet,
Not yet.
but the end is in sight.
Yes. Maybe.
Good. Maybe. Aaron?
So I have heard from some residents regarding the property maintenance issue on 201. And people have expressed to me that they would like us to consider that again. I guess it's really getting out of hand at this point.
It is.
And some have even expressed to me that it might actually be worse than where it was when the council took action last time around.
Yeah.
So at this point, I think we need to take that seriously as a potential safety hazard, especially where some people have expressed to me a belief that he's still trying to operate some sort of business there, which my understanding is he was not allowed to do.
I was over
if
there
it
the
was
other
in-
day, not in that particular,
Yeah.
on that particular piece of property, but I was next door at the antique mall, and I did notice that it's.
I know the code enforcement officer's on top of it, I know.
So actually, we just had a conversation today
Yeah.
about a potential, actually relatively large sign that we're thinking about having constructed, so to put at least out towards, within the road right away, warning folks about the fact that it's not, doesn't hold a valid business license, and folks should enter at their own risk as we continue to go through other processes. And we've got some legal questions about whether or not we're actually able to do that.
Yeah.
It's actually under kind of it's under the health officer issue, actually, more than code enforcement.
Right.
But we are still plugging through. And I mean, unless the council wants to decide that we're gonna hire the attorney to go full bore after him again for an illegal junkyard, we're still trying to figure out ways that we can do things that aren't
Yeah,
gonna, because if we keep doing the same thing, we're gonna end up with the same
I was
problem.
gonna say, unfortunately, we'll wind up in the same position
Yeah.
2 years from now that we are now.
Isn't this the definition of insanity?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
that's
know,
what
but there's
thought.
not really a whole lot of other options for us, that's the problem. So we're
Unfortunately.
trying anything we can that might potentially persuade the property owner to comply. but-
It is my recollection that in the enforcement phase of that, there were some actions that we didn't take because we felt that they were too heavy-handed for the situation. On the assumption, of course, that once the situation was resolved, it would stay resolved. I think it might be time to reconsider whether those more forceful actions might be appropriate and might more permanently solve the
Solve the
problem.
problem.
Could very well be time for that.
I think it's overdue, actually.
The other thing I was thinking is, in terms of time frame, obviously we'd have to start a new enforcement action. We're no longer, as far as I'm aware, the previous judgment has been
Yeah, so-
discharged.
Yes.
So it would take us over the winter to do that. The advantage being that if we got a judgment and the ground's not frozen, that's always been an issue with these situations where we try to get somebody's property
Right.
resolved, is that the ground's frozen for so much of the year that they can truly go to court and say, I have no ability to move objects that are
Correct.
frozen to the ground. If we deal with the problem, the paperwork part of the problem over the winter, and we get to the summer, we don't have that defense anymore.
Right. So the inspection pieces we know have been done. The municipality has satisfied its need for it to be able to go to an attorney to go to court. So those timeframes have been done, more than completed. So that part is done. So it's not like because there's so many specific things that have to happen, those have been completed.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at. We've been trying to avoid the step of go in and the municipality cleans it up, because we end up keeping the cost of that. And since there is a substantial mortgage on the property, even if it was, and it's a private mortgage holder, so if the property was to sell, they're gonna get their money first. So it's whether or not it would do us any good to to spend taxpayer money for a cleanup process that could very well look the same way within another year. So
Right.
that's kind of that's where we're at, and that we're trying to juggle all of that.
Can you provide the council with a packet so that our next meeting, we may have this on the agenda
Sure.
to decide
Discuss
whether or not
options.
we're going to go forward with getting the attorney involved?
Sure.
We may very well do that, but at least have the information for everybody to look at.
Yeah, and maybe we could get the code enforcement here too.
But you're going to
Yep.
be having a
Or-
public hearing
or
anyway
less.
on all of this stuff.
Yeah.
I plan to have them here for that, so it'll be perfect. Perfect timing for that
Yeah.
conversation.
Excellent.
Yep, we can do that, no problem.
All right, thank you.
Excuse me.
Anything else, Aaron?
Nope, nothing else, thank you.
And I do not have anything to cover this evening, so
You had me leave a memo for you
do I have?
that was on the top of your packet. You asked me to leave you a memo.
You did.
So you do have something to
I
make.
did
It's a
have
memo.
one other thing that I needed.
I
I did have one more thing to cover.
Okay.
Right. I have a letter here that was addressed to addressed to me, Chair of the Council, from the Maine Town, City, and County Management Association. And it says, on behalf of the Maine Town and City and County Management Association, it is my pleasure to inform you that Michelle Flewelling has applied for and has been accepted as having met the professional development criteria of the MTCMA certification program. Michelle is now one of the select few town, city, county managers in the state of Maine. This program represents Michelle's commitment to public service and professional excellence. The town of Fairfield can be proud to have its manager certified. It's a noteworthy event. That should be broadcast to the
Yes.
to the
You're gonna
town.
save money on your insurance.
But you're not
It's
getting
an
another
even
raise.
bigger noteworthy event. Actually, certified managers will decrease your liability insurance premiums. So, it's good.
Be prepared, she'll be asking for another raise.
Take that under advisement.
Oh, gosh.
I only have one document for you to sign this evening.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you for keeping me straight. Is there anything else I've missed?
No, that was a couple weeks ago when you asked me to do that.
Okay.
It's understandable.
Yes,
right.
it is.
All right. With that, the next regular meeting of the Fairfield Town Council will be on Wednesday, September 12th, 2018.
Got it
At this
down.
time, the council will recess to sign all documents that require signatures of the council members.
So moved.
Second.
Recess.
We're in recess.